So there's something which I thought to be pretty awesome in regard to Zebec as of late, and even though nothing I say is financial advice, and even though I'm not telling anyone to do anything, let me showcase what I mean by this, or let me explain, I should say. So did you know that when it comes to Zebec, of course we already know that they have this, I guess, intent to reacquire ZBCN from the revenue that they get and stuff like that. But here's the thing. People like to say, well, if they're kind of managing it themselves, isn't that really kind of, I guess, suspect? Now, my kind of mindset is this. I have to take a look at what they're planning to do. Like, for instance, Zebec, they allegedly state how when it comes to the funds for reacquiring, right? They say how that's consolidated quarterly and how it's actually held with Uphold Institutional. So I do like seeing this personally in my perspective. Now, I'm not telling anyone to do anything, but I'm just saying, I just thought that was pretty interesting. And I think that showcases kind of the focus when it comes to Zebec in regard to more so of the, I guess, security. Because we take a look at Zebec overall, we see SOC2, MICA, we see an aspect of ISO 20022. So it's not like when it comes to Zebec, they don't really care about this type of stuff. It seems like they care about it a lot. Other projects out there, they're focused on launches, focused on, creating a lot of attention, focused on random updates, but we don't really see them caring too much about kind of the security side of things and also the compliance side of things, which I find very bizarre because if their intent is to have a project kind of be there for the long term, that's probably something they should care about, at least in my opinion. It's like, for instance, if let's say I am trying to run a marathon and I want to make it my hobby or something like that, I think it would be pretty logical for me to kind of be willing to get the equipment, to have proper training and stuff like that. It would only make sense, right, if my intent is longevity. So when it comes to project, I kind of view it no different. Now, of course, the main contention is that, okay, Zebec is doing that, but who really cares about all this type of stuff? But in my opinion, ZBCN actually being the way it is as of right now, being below a 300 million market cap, like when I take a look back in time, which of course I can't go back in time, but I'm just saying, if let's say I was taking a look at ZBCN back then at around almost a 540 million market cap, like at one point I'd be like, oh wow, I can't believe ZBCN was below 300 million at one point. Like at that point, that's the reaction I would have. In which case, as of right now, we're below 300 million in terms of market cap. And what, suddenly I'm going to complain about that? At one point, when it was around 540 million, I was kind of like wanting it to be at below 300 million. Now, my kind of analogy is this. Let's say I see a pair of shoes, let's say at Foot Locker or something like that. Let's say it's like $200 or whatever. And let's say suddenly it became like $100. But then eventually moving forward it became like 200 again. When it's like at 200 again, I'd be like, whoa, I can't believe at one point it was like, below 100 or around 100. That's kind of my mindset. So when it comes to ZBCN, am I going to complain that it is the way it is as of right now? No, because my intent is $2 cost average. Now, we see the S&P 500 doing pretty fantastic. We see, of course, certain stocks, we see like SanDisk and stuff like that. But the people out there who are like constantly posting about it and constantly being very happy, in some cases that I do see, it's the ones that usually believed in it before. The intent is to sometimes be there before it does its thing. So when it comes to, let's say in the case of Zebec, my intent is, okay, sure, it's already done pretty okay ever since well over a year ago. I'm totally aware of that. But at the same time, we almost saw a 540 million market cap last year. We're below a 300 million market cap right now. If things are low, I want to be more focused because if people are ignoring a project, if they don't care about it, if typically the sentiment is not good, what happens? Usually the charts are down. But that's usually when I want to care about it the most because when things are down and my intent is $2 cost average, why would that be a major complaint? It actually wouldn't. Also, if I take a look at it, when it comes to Zebec overall as a project, I understand that people like to often tell me that, wow, this isn't really going to do anything. But as long as it's focused on the narrative that still probably has relevance when it comes to this space, I just don't see why I would view Zebec as a bad project. If I take a look at Zebec at its core, it's primarily focused on global trade and finance. However, sometimes people like to tell me that Zebec is focused on the wrong narrative. But here's my response. For instance, take a look at Ripple and Stellar. Are they focused on global trade and finance? Yeah, they are. Primarily speaking. Is Zebec focused on that? Yeah. So as long as that narrative is still there, as long as there are still people caring about it, would a top 5, or would I say a top 10 project within the global trade and finance space randomly be ignored like that? I just have a hard time believing that. Not to mention, Zebec, it's not like it's just some random project out there. We've seen a stellar partnership, by the way, right? I mean, that's pretty intense in a good way, in my opinion, in a pretty impressive way. Zebec already has a partnership with Algorand. So when people like to say, well, Zebec is focused on the wrong narrative, well, does that mean Ripple and Stellar is focused on the wrong narrative? A lot of people would probably say no, right? So then why would it suddenly be the correct narrative for Ripple and Stellar, but then suddenly the wrong narrative when it comes to Zebec? How does that make sense? That's kind of my mindset. So I don't think about it that way. I don't think Zebec is just randomly ignored. It's just the market hasn't been doing the best. But what can Zebec do? Randomly go on an independent rally of its own? It just doesn't seem that logical to me. I mean, Zebec is not a microcap. People oftentimes post about this microcap that did this random movement, or this other project that was previously not that popular and then did this very massive thing. People like to talk about that, but they don't talk about the 10,000 others, or the 5,000, or the over 20,000 others that haven't really done anything. They don't talk about that usually. They only talk about, oh, this project made it. Well, they don't talk about the other ones that don't. Keep in mind, there's thousands upon thousands of projects within this space. Usually, during a hypothetical altcoin season, not every single one is going to be cared about. So there are these very specialized cases where these random microcaps, sure, they do a pretty fantastic movement in some cases, but why would that be my focus? I don't want to believe in 5,000 projects just to find one quote-unquote unicorn. So my intent isn't to chase trends. My intent is to be there maybe before the journey happens. If I'm trying to chase all the time, what happens? If usually a lot of people talk about it, a lot of people care about it, typically what happens is already kind of basically near or almost at the top, or basically at the top, I should say. What happens if I believe at the top? Once it goes down, wow, that's good night right there. That's game, set, match, basically. At that point, I don't want to do that. I'd rather just stay focused on the projects that I want to believe in. I get it, it's boring, but I'd rather just sometimes believe in the projects that I'm more familiar with, the ones that I actually have studied and researched. That's it. Other projects, they can do their thing, that's fine. However, I just want to focus on the ones that I'm familiar with. It's like this, for instance. Lewis Hamilton, he's focused on racing, right? Like F1 racing. Imagine if he suddenly watched, like, let's say, the Super Bowl, or let's say he watched the World Series or something like that, and randomly he was like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to ignore F1 and do that. Like, what? That doesn't make sense. The World Series, the Super Bowl, they do their thing. They're on their lane. Lewis Hamilton is on his own lane. He should focus on his own lane, right? It's like, for instance, if I was a professional ping pong player, I'm not just randomly going to retire when it comes to ping pong and play tennis because I thought that, oh wow, take a look at what's going on in the Wimbledon. Like, seriously? Again, I wouldn't do that. Now, of course, I'm not an athlete, but I'm saying that's just kind of my mindset. And I kind of view it no different here. If I'm focused on the projects that I'm focused on, I'm going to stick with that, and I just wait and see what happens. Other projects, they can do their thing, but I don't want to chase. That's my mindset. I'm not going to try to chase trends that I'm not familiar with. That's not my style. I'd rather just stay consistent with the ones that I already believe in. That's it. If I'm trying to chase, sometimes it just might not be such a good thing for me. So I don't want to do that. Personally, other projects, again, they can do their thing, but I'm focused on my lane, right? I'm focused on the ones that I've actually researched and the ones that I'm actually familiar with, and that's what I'm going to do. But I'll be sure to make more updates moving forward when it comes to Zebec, so hopefully y'all stay tuned for that. I want to say thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a very nice day. I'm out. Peace. Bye.